Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Got a special guest with me, my daughter Crimson. We had a goal this year, and one of our goals was to read Gone with the Wind. And this is kind of a neat experience for me as the dad. One of my main reasons for starting this BookTube channel was to do these kind of things, reading books together and enjoying literature and having discussion points, book chats like this one. And I think this might be actually our first book we've read together. Almost.
Unless you count like when I was a kid.
No, I'm talking big books as an adult since we've started the channel, because that was my main goal, was so that we would have stuff, to talk together about. But anyway, long story short, we started back in, I believe, February.
Don't have to mention that part.
We started back in February, Gone with the Wind, and I have completed the book. I completed it back in June. Crimson is not done yet. She got hit with adult life and got a full-time job, and just realized, being an adult, doing some of the fun stuff like, reading books kind of goes by the wayside when you got a job. And so anyway, she has about, the book is broken up into 5 parts, and she has a part and a half, correct? She's about halfway through part 2. Like I said, got all 5 parts read, and so today's book discussion is going to be about part 1 of Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Now, this book was published in 1939. It has went through umpteen million different editions by many different publishers. My book was published by Avon Publishers. Crimson, I believe, has a different one. I don't remember. It was she's got a hardback version of it.
And I should have brought it because the cover of it is actually really beautiful. The illustration, but
now, with that being said, there are a couple of quotes we're going to pull out of here. I will tell you the page number that goes with my book, but again, the different editions, some of the page counts vary, so it might not match up. We'll give you a chapter that it comes out of.
Yeah, we have the chapters.
Yeah, so anyway, if you are not familiar with Gone with the Wind, it is a sweeping saga, if you want to call it that. Is that a good
drama?
A drama. It is a drama that takes place at the beginning of the Civil War. The whole book takes you through the Civil War and then through Reconstruction. And it's got a whole cast of characters that some of them you fall in love with, and some of them you just can't stand. You kind of hate them. And then there's a couple of them that you might be on the fence, and you can't figure out if you want to hate them or love them.
It's a dramatic story told by a dramatic girl, so...
A very dramatic girl.
Yes.
So what we at school we call the drama queen. So... Crimson, do you want to introduce maybe the families and then the characters within the family?
So, our characters, we first have the O'Hara family, and of course we have Scarlett, our main character. She is 16 in the beginning? Yes, 16 years old, told to be a very beautiful young girl. And we'll get into more of her personality later. But her father, Gerald O'Hara, her mother, Ellen, and her 2 sisters, Sue Ellen and Corinne. Do you want to?
Okay. Yeah. So some of our other characters, there are the neighbor boys, the Tarleton twins. We've got Rhett Butler, which if you've seen the movie, you're probably
you're gonna recognize.
Yep, you're gonna be familiar with Rhett Butler.
The love interest.
The love interest, Ashley Wilkes, and then there is Melanie, Ashley's future wife. And then the other character we really wanted to mention in this part 1, and there's more characters to it, but these are just for part 1. And Mammy is the other. She is the slave that takes care of Scarlett. Okay. So, just a basic summary of what's going on. This is based in Georgia in 1861, and so we are at the beginnings of the Civil War in Part 1, and the Part 1 will take you through into 1862.
And this is going to be the talk of the town.
Yes, go ahead.
No, that's all I was just going to say. It is the talk of the town. Everyone is especially the men, are getting riled up about it. And
About the war.
About the war.
Yes. Do we fight? Do we go take it to the Yankees?
Yes.
That is kind of the gist of the entire beginning of the book. It is very much written from a Southern point of view. When reading this, I guess this is something we need to mention. When reading this, you kind of have to read it with a grain of salt and remember the time period that they are writing, that she is writing in the 1930s, and the time period that she's writing about. Because there are some things I do want to mention that I really dislike about how I like how she writes the story, Margaret Mitchell. I think she's a great writer. However, how she portrays some things in this book really drive me nuts, bonkers, batty, and up a wall. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you want to go ahead and describe the events?
Okay, so we have the war that is about to start, and you're going to learn that Scarlett O'Hara, the main character, is tired of hearing about this war. She could care less. It stresses her out, and she could care less.
That is pretty much the exact. That's spot on.
Yeah.
Scarlett is all about herself. She is about the most selfish character I have ever read about. I seriously don't know if I've ever read another book that is more me, I.
Yeah.
And it drives me insane.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so she is trying to, in the beginning of the book, she's really trying to capture the eye of her... Ashley Wilkes, her neighbor, that she has pretty much grown up with. He's a few years older than she is. He's, I want to say he's about 7 years older. I think when I looked it up, I was looking some stuff up online to get ages and, that kind of stuff. And I believe he was supposed to be 7 years older. Does that sound right?
That sounds... Give or take.
I could be off on that. I probably need to double check. And I looked it up the other night.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they did grow up together, and he is not like the other men in their little society going on. He is different. He is more into the literature, the arts, and traveling. And a lot of men find that to be like more foolish to educate.
He's very intellectual.
And
he prides himself on his intellectualism. Right. And his Ashley's girlfriend, soon to be fiance, soon to be married, Melanie, is exactly the same way. Oh yeah, and by the way, not to weird you out, but it's his cousin. Kind of weird. But anyway.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Anyway, Melanie is the same way. Her character is very, very brainy. We do kind of fall in love with her character, though. I did.
I start to feel sorry because of the way that Scarlett portrays Melanie.
And she is, in the beginnings of the book, before we see, and I'll talk about this in later videos, before we see that other side of Melanie, and I'll have to explain myself on that. But in the beginning, Melanie is about the sweetest character you'll ever meet. She gives of herself. She's all about taking care of you, nothing for herself. And
very selfless.
Very selfless, yes. Where on the polar opposite side of everything, Scarlett is very selfish.
Does everything for herself and for her own gain and benefit.
Exactly. So anyway, we got the war going on through this first part, or the beginnings of the war anyway. And then in the beginnings, once we figure out that Ashley is wanting to marry Melanie, Scarlett's jealousy odometer goes skyrocket. And she is willing to do anything and everything to break them apart. And she wants Ashley for herself. All right?
This is like high school drama.
It's exactly what it is. It's high school drama. And so basically, as we set the story up, we look at the party. They're going to throw this big barbecue
yep.
party where we bring in all of the neighborhood plantation owners and their kids and everything.
This is going to be where everyone shows up.
Everybody shows up.
It's the event of the summer.
And the big announcement that's going to be made that everybody already knows is that Ashley's going to ask Melanie to marry him. They're looking to get married, especially with the idea that we may be going off to war soon. All right, correct. So let's see here. So some main themes that we see throughout this book. You want to start with that?
Okay. Sure. Some of the main themes we could go into are the gender roles. Scarlet is not like the other girls, although she's very selfish.
Well, let's
she has
start with what the gender roles, the gender expectations in the 1860s are according to this book. Start with that, and then you can differ.
So women, you know, they are more like, how do I word this?
Training to be housewives.
Training to be housewives. They are trained to be helpless, almost in a way. Like they need a man to take care of them.
How to dress, how to throw parties.
How to be a lady. Mm-hmm. Scarlet is not a lady. She now
that's not to say her mother hasn't tried to train her.
Oh yeah. So going into that, her parents are quite polar opposite people. Her father is a very outspoken, prideful,
former poor Irishman, immigrant.
Poor Irishman that built his way to owning a lot of land, having being wealthy, and is just a very loud person on top of that. And then very boyish person. And Scarlet takes those traits from her father.
Oh my, does she ever. And he marries up in the book. Her dad definitely married up when he married Ellen. She was a beautiful, rich daughter of a plantation owner.
That everyone sought after.
Everybody sought after, and they were curious, how in the world did Gerald win her affection?
Yes. So, yes, Scarlet is not like her mother, whereas if anything, she idolizes her mother because she will never be her. Mm-hmm.
She puts her up on a pedestal. It's the goal that will never be reached.
Correct. Yeah. So going back to gender roles, Scarlet is not a prissy, lady-like person. She is like her father. She is selfish. She just doesn't really partake in the activities that the girls do, and that makes her a threat in a way.
Yeah, we were talking about this in the book. Scarlet is a threat to all the other girls, and all the other girls are a threat to Scarlet. When it comes
likes her.
Well, when it comes to getting the affections of men. When Scarlet walks into a room, the men flock. They might not even realize why they are flocking. She is just a beautiful, charismatic girl that everyone is like a magnet. Everyone is drawn to her. For good or for bad, they're drawn to her. And all the other ladies hate it.
Yes.
And she knows it.
And she knows it.
And she doesn't really care. That's where she gets a little bit of her dad, takes after her dad.
Yes. So she does not fit into the gender roles. So that kind of does make her stand out as a character. And although she isn't my favorite character, it does make you almost respect that she doesn't fall into being the perfect lady back in the day. And
she goes to the beat of her own drum.
She knows what she wants, and she's going to get what she wants. Yep. And with that, you can kind of respect that in a way, because she's not doing what people tell her to do. In a way. And I forgot to ask you, who is your favorite character? Oh,
for me?
Yes.
Of all of the characters, I really like Gerald, the dad, first of all, because, just that idea, that part of the story of him coming as an immigrant and starting poor and making himself rich. There's an American theme to that. You know what I mean? It's like the American dream. And then I also really like Rhett Butler, who we haven't even talked about yet.
And we'll talk about him later, but...
Yes, Rhett...
He is also my favorite character.
He tells you like it is. He doesn't really care what you think of him.
And he's going to call Scarlet out.
Yeah, he's very, very honest. We will keep it at that, at least in this part of the book.
And we like that.
Yes.
So, okay.
All right, so another theme that we found in the book was the idea of land and the pride in owning land. And Crimson got a
quote that I liked
from the book that really spells this out, and she's going to read that.
So
read that to you.
This would be. This
is Gerald talking.
This is Gerald talking to his daughter Scarlet. Scarlett had just come to her father. She is complaining and heartbroken when she hears that Ashley Wilkes is going to be proposing to Melanie. And so this is his response to that. He is basically trying to comfort her and tell her that there's more importance to land than there is in who you're going to be marrying, which is kind of sad. But the quote was, "Land is the only thing in the world that amounts to anything, for 'tis the only thing in this world that lasts." So you can really kind of just hear the pride in that, where if you own land, you're doing good.
Yeah, and that really does become a driving theme through the whole book. Not to skip ahead into the other parts, but what's the name of the plantation? Tara, the plantation,
or Tara,
that we'll call it Tara.
Yeah.
The plantation that Scarlett lives on. That's the land that he's specifically talking about. Our plantation, our land. This is us, and
it's an honorable thing, and he's proud of it.
Yeah, and it becomes not to flash forward too far, but it becomes an on-running theme through the whole book where, no matter what happens to Scarlett throughout the entire book, she's always got Tara. She can always go back home to Tara, the one thing that lasts. Relationships don't last. War won't last. Money doesn't even last, but your land lasts. It's always there. And so to keep control of Tara becomes an on-running theme because that's the central part of her life, and she gets that back from her dad.
It's what she grew up on.
Yep.
It will always be a part of her, in a sense.
Yeah. The other parts of the book that we found, two other big themes. Let's see, what's this one here?
This one?
Yeah.
Probably didn't word this right, but the cockiness of the men that they're finding out that there might be a war, and they are very
prideful.
They're prideful, and
they think this war is going to last a couple weeks and be done. At most 3 months, and it's going to be done. And and we're pointing at the Southerners because this is written from a Southern point of view.
But the North was just the same way.
Yeah, and anybody that's well read in the Civil War will know that both the North and the South were like that.
Anyone who was getting involved.
Mm-hmm. There's an extreme arrogance amongst the men, especially a lot of these younger ones who have never been to war before.
No experience.
You hear a little bit different attitudes from people who are old enough to have served in the Mexican War, where they've been to war, they know what war's about. But these younger guys, like the Tarleton twins and Charles, what's his name? Charles.
I know who you're talking about.
Scarlett marries him. It's in part 1, so I can talk about it. What's his name?
I can't believe I didn't even write his character name down.
Awesome. We can't remember.
Charles.
Yeah. All these younger guys, that's the main idea here. All these younger guys have got this cockiness, this arrogance about them, this pride, and they're going to whip the other side. Like I said, that's
Southern pride.
Yep. And there's Northern pride too. So we're not like pointing the finger here. But
it doesn't matter what
in the book, that's what we see because that's the point of view.
Right.
Anyway, and then the other main theme that we want to talk about was just the idea of love. What is love? Love versus...
the idea of love or lust.
Is it love or is it lust? What really is love? And that becomes an on-running theme through the whole book. And I found a couple of... There's a classic scene, and anybody that's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about, but they're at the party, and Scarlett has dragged Ashley into the library, shut the doors, they're alone.
She is about to confess.
Yes, there's this big scene. She believes she's going to win him over, and out goes Melanie, and in goes Scarlett. Little does she know that is not what's going to happen. But it's a classic scene. It made me laugh when I was reading it. I bookmarked it on 2 spots during this scene because they're classic moments in the movie.
And this is in chapter 6.
Yes, this is from chapter 6. The first one is from page 118.
Which might not be the same.
Yeah, in my copy. So she's dragged him in here, and actually I'm going to, let's go back to 117, the tail end of 117. It says, What is it? He repeated. A secret to tell me? Suddenly she found her tongue, and just as suddenly all the years of Ellen's teachings fell away, and the forthright Irish blood of Gerald spoke from his daughter's lips. Forthright, that's a good word. Yes, a secret. I love you. For an instant there was silence, so acute it seemed that neither of them even breathed. Then the trembling fell away from her as happiness and pride surged through her. Why hadn't she done this before? How much simpler than all the ladylike maneuverings she had been taught. And then her eyes sought his.
It shows how confident she is.
Oh yeah, she thinks she's got this done, mastered.
You can just tell she is very, very full of herself.
Very confident.
Very confident.
There was a look of consternation in them, of incredulity, and something more. What was it? Yes, Gerald had looked that way the day his pet hunter had broken his leg and he had had to shoot him. Why did she have to think of that now? Such a silly thought. Why did Ashley look so oddly and say nothing? Then something like a well-trained mask came down over his face, and he smiled gallantly. Isn't it enough that you've collected every other man's heart here today? He said, with the old teasing, caressing note in his voice. Do you want to make it unanimous? Well, you've always had my heart, you know. You cut your teeth on it. Classic line. Something was wrong, all wrong. This was not the way she had planned it. Through the mad tearing of ideas round and round in her brain, one was beginning to take form. Somehow, for some reason, Ashley was acting as if he thought she was just flirting with him. But he knew differently. She knew he did. Ashley, tell me, you must. Oh, don't tease me now. Have I your heart? Oh, my dear, I love... His hand went across her lips swiftly. The mask was gone. You must not say these things, Scarlett. You mustn't. You don't mean them. You'll hate yourself for saying them, and you'll hate me for hearing them. She jerked her head away. A hot, swift current was running through her. I couldn't ever hate you. I love you. I love you. I know you must care about me because... She stopped. Never before had she seen so much misery in anyone's face. Ashley, do you care? You do, don't you? Yes, he said dully. I care. If he had said he loathed her, she could not have been more frightened. She plucked at her sleeve, speechless. Scarlett, he said, can't we go away and forget that we had ever said these things? No, she whispered. I can't. What do you mean? Don't you want to marry me? And so we get this classic scene. If you've seen the movie, you know why I'm voicing the characters like that, because it's laid on pretty thick and heavy in the movie. Drama. And it just made me laugh as I was reading this, because in my head, I had the movie playing in my...
And the fact she can't believe that he doesn't love her that way.
Yeah.
Is hilarious to me.
And you get this thing, speaking of love, you get this problem with Ashley where he does have the attachment to her. He physically loves her, but deep in his heart, it's not the true love. His true love is Melanie, but he's always got this physical pull towards her. And, you get that play back and forth. What really is love? Or is it just lust? Now, moving forward, she has been rejected. He has walked out of the library. Yeah, walked out of the library. She's hacked off because she has opened herself up to him, and it has not worked.
And for the first time in her life, she has been rejected, ladies and gentlemen.
Her womanly ways has not worked. So we bring ourselves to the the end of page 121, and I'll read you into page 122, and it's the other very classic scene from part 1.
My favorite.
It's funny. So her hand dropped to the little table beside her, fingering a tiny china rose bowl on which 2 china cherubs smirked. The room was so still, she almost screamed to break the silence. She must do something or go mad. She picked up the bowl and hurled it viciously across the room toward the fireplace. It barely cleared the tall back of the sofa and splintered with a little crash against the marble mantelpiece.
So dramatic.
"This," said a voice from the depths of the sofa, "this is too much." Nothing had ever startled her or frightened her so much. Now, she did not know Rhett Butler was in the room.
The entire time.
He's over on the other side of the room, laying on a sofa, facing away from him, and he didn't say a word. He should not have heard any of this.
He's a little eavesdropper, a little sneaky guy.
I know. Now, you say eavesdropper, but I don't think he meant to. He just happened to be in the room. Yes. Stuck between a rock and a hard place here. All right, so he says, so this is too much. Nothing had ever startled her or frightened her so much, and her mouth went too dry for her to utter a sound. She caught hold of the back of the chair, her knees going weak under her, as Rhett Butler rose from the sofa where he had been lying and made her a bow of exaggerated politeness. "It is bad enough to have an afternoon nap disturbed by such a passage as I've been forced to hear, but why should you have why my life be endangered?" He was real. He wasn't a ghost. But saints preserve us, he had heard everything. She rallied her forces into a semblance of dignity. "Sir, you should have Sir, you should have made known your presence." "Indeed." His white teeth gleamed, and his bold, dark eyes laughed at her. "But you were the intruder. I was forced to wait for Mr. Kennedy, and feeling that I was perhaps persona non grata in the backyard. I was thoughtful enough to remove my unwelcome presence here where I thought I would be undisturbed. But alas!" He shrugged and laughed softly. Her temper was beginning to rise again at the thought that this rude, impertinent man had heard everything, heard things she now wished she had died before she had ever uttered. "Eavesdroppers," she began furiously. "Eavesdroppers often hear highly entertaining and instructive things," he grinned. "From a long experience in eavesdropping, Sir, you are no gentleman." "An apt observation," he answered airily. "And you, miss, are no lady." And I'm going to stop right there. That line, I instantly marked it because it just made me start laughing.
And this is why he's my favorite character, for quite simply the sarcasm and calling her out.
Oh yeah, and he's extremely honest in how he feels. You might not agree with him, but he's honest in what he does.
And that's something you can respect because...
Now, I don't mean in his business dealings necessarily. We get into that later. But in his relationship with people.
Yes.
Yeah. So, anyway, those were, some themes that we picked up on in part one.
Favorite quotes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you have any discussion points you wanted to hit?
Yes, I did.
Now, we were trying to figure out how to do discussion questions, discussion points, and honestly, we could probably end this video with what we just did, but we found these and we want to talk about them. We got it from litlovers.com. litlovers.com. I'll try to remember to leave a link to that down in the description box. But these were just a couple of questions that we found interesting and added to the conversation. Go ahead.
And this is something that we did kind of touch on, but I will read it again. So, Gerald O'Hara is described as vital and earthy and coarse. Why do you think society still considers him a gentleman?
Go ahead.
I think they consider him a gentleman because when I think of gentleman, I think of someone who is respectful. And I think it is because of the way he built himself up.
Yeah, people do respect that.
A hard worker, for one.
He's picked himself up by the bootstraps. He's a landowner. He married a beautiful woman who had money.
And raised a family on a lot of land. And I think that's why people considered him a gentleman. And
they call him earthy. You could also throw in some of his crudeness as well.
Yeah.
I really think his crudeness, because he is not from, what we would call old money.
And he wouldn't be your average gentleman. And I think that's why they ask, why is he still considered a gentleman? And I think it is because of how he's worked up to the point he is in his life now.
Yeah, and he's like I said, he's got that earthiness just because he's still...
There's a genuineness to
He wasn't born to it.
No.
He wasn't born to it. And so he doesn't have a lot of those manners that the other gentlemen have. And so,
Correct.
yeah. All right. So number 2.
Okay, discuss the general attitude towards education in Gone with the Wind. Gerald, Scarlett, and others refers to Ashley Wilkes' studies as foolishness. Does this surprise you? If art and literature are unimportant to so many, what qualities are admired?
You go ahead and start.
So, I think the qualities that were admired were, again, more of the laborious jobs, I would say, in like building wealth.
Now here's my question to you, though. They respect labor?
No, that's not. I take that back.
Because somebody who works with their hands would be considered beneath them because they had not reached that upper status yet. Gerald has gotten to the point where he's in that upper status. He didn't start there, but he's there. So anyway, go ahead.
Ashley's studies were just considered unnecessary. They were more things that the women would actually educate themselves on, because if you look in that time period, they educated themselves in the arts. They learned music. They liked to learn about travel, and the men did not.
Well, and also if you do, a little bit more research just on schooling in general for like the North versus the South. In the South, they really didn't have a lot of
They didn't have them.
They didn't have the Ivy League schools, the classic educations for the most part. They had a little bit of it, but most of that was found in the North. So a lot of these guys aren't even going to have maybe that opportunity to have that classic education. That would be another, I think, would have to go into that answer.
I think he got made fun of, and, you know, yeah.
All right, so let's go to number 3.
Okay, I'll let you read that one.
All right, so to Mammy's indignation, Scarlett preferred playmates were not her demure sisters or the well-brought-up Wilkes girls, but the Negro children on the plantation and the boys of the neighborhood. Why doesn't Scarlett befriend other girls? As a young woman, whom does she show general affection, and why? So I think a lot of this gets back to, we talked about at the beginning with Scarlett feels threatened by other women and other women feel threatened by her. That's got to play into this. She doesn't have a lot of female friends because she's a threat to them. She will steal their man just like that, not even think about it.
And just from what we talked about, how she has more of a boyish personality since she was growing up.
Yeah, she hung around with her dad. She fit with her dad.
She took her dad's qualities, and she didn't fit in with the other girls her age.
And her dad wasn't, you think about riding side saddle versus straddling the horse. Her dad had no problem really with her riding. How did I just say that? Not straddling. He had no problem with her straddling the horse and riding it like a man.
But the thing is, her father held her 2 sisters to the expectation of acting like a lady, though. And I think it was because he had no sons, and Scarlett was the son he never had.
And with her being the eldest child, that first one born, do you think that plays into why he treated her like the son?
I think it does. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here.
And he's known, and he'll always know that Scarlett is different.
Are we ready for the next one?
4. Yep.
All right, so number 4. Sacrilegious though it may be, Scarlett always saw through her closed eyes the upturned face of Ellen and not the Blessed Virgin, as the ancient phrases were repeated. Does Scarlett have these emotions because Ellen is her mother, or because she admires her as a person? Why is Ellen so special to Scarlett? Is there anyone else Scarlett admires to the same degree?
I think that Ellen admires her mother so much because she will never be her mother. Quite frankly, her mother is the lady. If you could think of a lady, it was her mother. And that's just not Scarlett. And she knows it. Well,
and with her, here's another question. This might tie into earlier. With her taking after her father so much, that's how her father held her mother, is in that he idolized her. And
And
do you
Scarlett
think that
is
plays?
so much like her father.
And she wants, and the only guy that she really wants to please, to be happy with her, is her father. And by I'm just asking, do you think that because he idolizes her, she feels she needs to idolize? I agree with you that she realizes that she's everything she will never be.
I think it could be a mix of both. I really do. I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think she idolizes or admires to the same degree as her mother?
Well, I have to skip to the end of the story. It takes the death of Melanie at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. It takes the death of Melanie for her to realize what Melanie meant to her. And I still don't even fully think she got it. But she realizes after seeing how everybody treats Melanie. And
a good woman Melanie really was.
Yeah. She sees Melanie as that. She hates it because Ashley loves her. And she could never have Ashley because of Melanie. But she does, in the end, realize Melanie is everything she couldn't have. Or everything she couldn't be. Excuse me.
Correct. Yeah.
All right.
7?
We're going to skip to number 7. Go ahead.
After overhearing her declaration of love to Ashley, Rhett Butler tells Scarlett, "You, miss, are no lady," which we discussed earlier. Is this the very reason he's drawn to her? What is it about Scarlett that instantly attracts Rhett's eye? So, she's not like other women.
She's not. And I really think, and I think they hit on this, that Rhett Butler sees himself in her.
They are stubborn and
they don't care what other people think. They go get what they want. They are so much alike. It's not even funny.
And they say opposites attract, but in this case,
not in this case.
In this case.
And if you ever read the book, they talk about that. He says several times throughout the book, and I know you haven't got to it, but he tells her, "What is your obsession with Ashley Wilkes? You are not him, and he is not you. You are not like him. It will not work.
You share no similarities."
Exactly. You might as well be with me because I am everything that you need.
Right.
And you are everything I need. He says that many times throughout the book. Sorry, spoiler alert. Should have read it.
Shush. All right. And number 8.
Number 8.
So this is towards the end of part 1. We find out that Scarlett marries Charles. She's Charles Hamilton. That's
Hamilton.
His name.
Yeah.
Hamilton. So we find out that she settles for a man that she doesn't even love.
Was it settling? Or was it more of a way to make Ashley jealous? I don't even know if I'd call it settling. Because
she never loved him.
Yeah, she never, but if you settle yourself to, okay, I'll make it work, I'll love him. She never planned to love the dude. It was jealousy. It was to get Ashley to turn his head and see that. And then the fact that Charles is brother to Melanie, she's going to be in that family circle no matter what. She's going to force her way into it.
She knew what she was doing.
Exactly.
So the question is...
I guess we better get to the question.
There is very little discussion of Scarlett's first husband, Charles Hamilton. Within 2 weeks, Scarlett had become a wife, and within 2 months more, she was a widow. Why is there a jump in time from Charles' introduction to his death? Were you at all surprised at Scarlett's reaction to widowhood?
No. She never loved him.
She never loved him.
It was like taking the shackles off is what it was for her.
And the jump, I think, is literally because she never... There's nothing to talk about because she never cared for him.
Yeah, there's a reason they jump. There's no love.
There was nothing
and
there.
One of the central themes is the love, and there's no love there.
I think Charles loved her, though.
Well, but there
was a major crush for her.
This is mainly from Scarlett's point of view.
Oh, from Scarlett's point of view, she didn't love Charles. She knew that he really liked her.
Matter of fact, didn't like him at all.
She thought he was annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the guy she wanted to marry. And
so I think that's why there's such a big jump, because there was just nothing there.
Well, and then on top of that, she gets married 2 months later. She's a widow, and within that time period, she also got pregnant.
Yeah.
And she has a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring that up real fast.
You think there'd be some significance to that?
Well, and I'll be honest, I can't remember in part 1. I'd have to go back and reread the pages, but I can't remember how much they talk about how she treats this baby. It may be more into part 2, but Scarlett makes me want to throw up. She makes me want to puke in how she treats her kid. She is not a loving mother at all, and it drives me insane. I don't care if you didn't like the dad or not. It's your child. There's got to be some affection there. That drove me nuts in the book. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
It's still a part of you, whether you didn't love the father.
Exactly.
This child is still a part of you as well. And
yeah, and by the way, this was weird.
It just shows how...
This was something that was weird. My wife and I watched the movie, because I own the movie. I've been waiting till I got the book read. I've been waiting for her to watch it, but she never read enough of the book to get it watched. But anyway.
I'm going to read it in chunks. Like, after each part, I'll just watch so much of the movie.
So here's something that drove me nuts, folks, was in the movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might have just missed it, but the boy never shows up. The son that she has with Charles never shows up in the movie. They never show him.
Did they say that she got pregnant, though, in the movie?
I don't even remember them saying she got pregnant, and she never shows that she got pregnant with Charles. So I'm sure it's because they could only put so much into the movie, and they had to jump it ahead. I get that. But that kind of bothered me, I guess. But anyway, overall, let's wrap this up. Overall, do you like the book so far?
I do actually like the book so far. I don't like the character, but because of
Which character?
Scarlett.
Okay.
Scarlett. But because of the decisions she makes, her thought process behind things is what makes the book so interesting, because normally most people are not like that.
When you almost catch yourself...
You would hope most people are not.
And you almost catch yourself thinking, I wonder what she's going to do to get out of this one. But what's she going to do to get her way? You catch yourself thinking that. So, at least I did anyway.
That's what makes me like the book. And, it's in a different time period.
It's an interesting saga.
Life was different back then. So it's interesting just to
and
put a perspective.
I think the number one thing that I did not like, I mean, aside from her character and the things we've discussed already, the Margaret Mitchell's treatment of African Americans in this time period. I really, really disliked the
portrayal.
The portrayal of African Americans, the language that because she tries to put it into what's the word I want.
Perspective.
No, like their way of speaking.
Oh, how they spoke?
It's distracting to the reading when you're trying to read. Oh, I'll never even find a spot. But she puts it into how she thought slaves would have been speaking. And there would have been some accent or dialect, whatever you want to call it.
But not to the degree.
But not to I don't think to the degree that she did it. And to try to read it slows down the book so much, because they're like large chunks of dialect.
And it is hard to understand. I have to find myself
read it 3 or 4 times to get what she's trying to say.
What this person is saying.
Yeah, and I really didn't like that. The way that she portrays the slaves in a lot of cases is that they did not mind slavery. They liked being slaves. They were part of the family.
Like
and all that.
They had a sense of pride that they were part of the family and working for a wealthy family.
I hated that. I hated that.
And maybe
there was a little bit of a connection, but not to the degree that she puts it in this book. That drove me insane.
I agree.
I did not like that. I just did not like that. You would not see, when slaves were being freed, you would not see them in misery over being freed, which is what happens later on in the book. And it drove me insane.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to make that final comment.
Right. What do you like about the book?
What do I like about it? I like the family saga. I like big historical fictions like this.
It's a drama.
And it's well written. It really is. Her storytelling is good. Now, it's a little slower paced. It's in that dramatic fashion like you see with
more
Gone with the Wind, the
slow
movie. It's just
moving
it's a
as
slower pace. I mean, it's a constant pace. I will say that it's constant. It doesn't like slow way down and then speed up a little bit. It's a pretty steady pace.
I will say right off the bat, though, when I first started reading chapter 1, I already knew I was not going to like Scarlet.
Oh, yeah, it didn't take very long to figure that out.
It doesn't take long to figure it out, and you just get to the point where you're like, oh my goodness, woman, get over it. Like, get over yourself.
Yep.
So if you get annoyed with people easily, maybe this isn't the book. Maybe it's not the book for you, but...
if you like to hate your characters, this might be the book for you.
But
I am glad that I read the whole thing.
And I would like to...
Part 1 was it was a good start to the book. It got it going. I'm glad that I picked it up and read the whole thing.
And I will soon someday would like to finish this book.
And so book 2, but our plans are, we did this discussion, we're 46 minutes in. We'll wrap it up here.
We've got some editing to do after this.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit of editing, but anyway, it is our plan to do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, whenever those parts come. When they come, they come. Yeah, to be continued. Hopefully we'll have another discussion. Maybe we can shorten it up a bit. We didn't know how long this was going to go.
And a lot of it, I think it's going a lot longer just because we are introducing new characters. And, but we could probably shorten it up a lot more.
Yep, next version will be a little shorter. So anyway, BookTube, thank you for watching. I hope this didn't take up too much of your time. Anyway, thank you, and until next time, happy reading.